Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the show. I'm Deanna Yates, and you are listening to episode 201 of the Wannabe Clutter-Free podcast. On today's episode, I am chatting with Elizabeth Manley about the importance of play in our homes and also how it affects the number of toys we have. I know that I am always talking to you about decluttering your toys, and she's going to talk to us about how many do we really need? Should we declutter our toys? I don't know. How do they affect play and why is play important in our homes? But before we get to our conversation, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I am so happy you are here. And if you like what you hear today, there's a few ways you can help the show. One, if you don't want to hear any of the ads that I have on my show, you can become a supporter and get all of the episodes ad free, the entire back catalog, every new episode that comes out for as little as $5 a month. There's even an annual plan where you can get some additional bonuses. You can go to wannabeclutterfree.com/supporter to get more information about that. Also, you can share it with a friend who helps you get an accountability partner along the way if they want to listen too. And you guys can work on decluttering and living clutter free together. And it is so much more fun when you have a friend along for the journey. If you don't have anyone you want to share this show with and you still want that accountability partner, come over to the Wannabe Minimalist family group on Facebook. Join us over there, have a conversation, jump on in, share your questions, comments, concerns, any of that, and we will get back to you. It's a wonderful, supportive community, and it's just been a lot of fun being able to get to know people in there as well. You can also leave a rating or a review for the show. You can connect with me on social media. I'm at Wannabe Clutter Free. Lots of different ways we can get in touch. That way you can support the show, but also get your questions answered. Let me know what you want to hear about on this show. I have lots of guest episodes coming up, but I've got lots of solo episodes that I would love to be able to answer your questions and talk about whatever it is that's really on your mind when it comes to clutter. So reach out and let me know. I will leave links for all of those ways to connect in the show notes, or you can go to wannabeclutterfree.com/201 for more information. All right, that's enough housekeeping. Let's learn more about my guest this week. Elizabeth, a mom of two boys and author of Discovery Play with Littles, brings her decade-long experience as an early elementary teacher to address a common challenge: children entering kindergarten unprepared. On Discovery Play with Littles, Elizabeth combines classroom insights with her passion for nurturing strong family relationships and instilling essential character traits in children. Her passion is to empower parents with tools and activities that support early academic skills, social and emotional skills, and teach important values like honesty, responsibility, kindness, and integrity. It is a wonderful conversation we have today. I think you're in for a treat and you're going to love it. So give this episode a listen. And when you're done, head over to wannabeclutterfree.com/201 to get show notes for today's episode. We will have a link to Elizabeth's website and plus a really amazing free bundle that she is offering for this week only. So when this episode comes out, just for 1 week, this is available. So make sure you get that. All right, now let's get to our conversation. Well, hi, Elizabeth. Welcome to Wanna Be Clutter Free. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you today. We're going to talk about playing and bringing that element of play into our homes and why that's important, not just for our kids, but for ourselves as well. But before we get there, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you help busy moms?
Absolutely. My name's Elizabeth. I'm the mama of two boys who keep me pretty busy. I was a teacher. I taught kindergarten and second grade, so early elementary. And now at home, I run the blog discoveryplaywithlittles.com, and I help busy moms instill strong character traits in their kiddos. So perseverance, empathy, kindness. And I also talk about preparing them for kindergarten because a lot of people don't know how to prepare their kids for kindergarten or what they should be doing. They know the standards have risen and their expectations are much higher, but it's hard to know what to do so that your kids are really ready to jump into the new world of kindergarten.
Ooh, I'm excited to talk with you about this. You probably don't know this part of our story, but our daughter actually did kindergarten in Germany, in Munich. We lived in Munich for about 8 months. And so we had her over there, and now we live in San Diego. So I'm excited. We'll get to that because I do want to touch on the differences. But I love that you help families bring this element of play. into their home. Could you explain why play is so critical for children's development and what areas of growth are most impacted by by play or then even a lack of play? Because I think sometimes it's easier when we know what we're missing out on if we don't have play.
Absolutely. Play is so important. And that's something that standards completely miss. There's standards on how kids need to be reading and writing and what they need to know, but there's no play in there. And kids are wired to learn best through play. That's what they need to be doing. And so when we sit a kiddo in front of a worksheet or something, they don't learn as well as if you make it engaging and fun. And so a lack of play, even if they sit in front of a screen, their fine motor skills, this is a big problem in kindergarten. Their fine motor skills are severely lacking. And when I was teaching, I noticed every year they got a little bit worse with the group of kinders that were coming in. I mean, I even had kids that couldn't turn pages of a book. Their handwriting was really hard because all they're used to doing is swiping. They're not used to digging in dirt with their fingers. Their muscles aren't strong enough because they're not using their fingers with Play Doh. They're not exploring with their hands and getting that coordination down. So, coloring, writing, all of that is harder for kids. And it's getting really, they're coming in underdeveloped in those areas. And not only that, but focus is really hard when it's harder for kids when they aren't in charge of their own play. The screens and even these so called learning apps that you think you're doing a service to your kid by putting them, on and having them spend time on because they're learning their ABCs or counting, all that's changing their brains because they need those rewards every 3 seconds or the star, the flashing lights, so their focus isn't developing. Their imagination isn't developing because they don't have to do the work of thinking up something to do. They don't have to do the work of pretending and coming up with story and all of those things that you do when you're bored. That's a word that kids don't know these days because we feel like we just have to keep them entertained all the time. So, lack of play is really doing a disservice to our kids in many areas. Even if there's even if they're learning some academics, a lack of play hurts them um, socially. Also, they aren't building those social cues with friends, those social skills with friends to hold conversations and to play together and get along. And yeah, so lack of play really touches many areas that kids need to be developing in.
Yeah. Oh, so interesting. I see all these headlines all the time about Gen Alpha, which I think is are kindergartners still considered Gen Alpha? I think it's all the way to the babies being born this year are still in Gen Alpha, which is the behind the Gen Z. Well, and so I think this is so interesting. There is a lot of studies behind showing all of this, obviously. So I'm an elder millennial. I'm like a geriatric millennial. I'm like on the cusp. I'm a zennial with the X, not the zennial with the Z. But I definitely relate more to millennials than I do to Gen X. And you see all these articles about talking about how millennials are messing up their alpha kids. But I do think, like, people like, I've got my phone right here on my desk, right? I think our generation has gotten so used to having a phone with us. We just feel like that's I almost think that people actually think they're helping their kids when they put them in front of an iPad and they put them in front of these learning apps because they think, I mean, people aren't purposely trying to keep their kids behind, right? So I think they're trying to help and they think like, well, the whole world is digital. The whole world is on my phone. So kids need to learn how to navigate these tools and apps and all this kind of stuff. But the other thing I have read is that they don't actually get the underlying concepts or the mechanics of how your phones actually work. So everything is so dumbed down on apps and it all like you said directs you here and there and you don't ever have to figure out how that actually works or how to put it together or if something goes wrong, how do you fix it? That is so interesting to me. I keep expecting our daughter to know how to work the TV better than we do. She's 10. She still doesn't, right? I think some kids do, but, like, she still doesn't know how to work things better than we do as parents, which, to be fair, I'm happy about that. But I do keep expecting there to be a moment of like, "Oh, she's gonna just get all of this stuff," but they don't unless they have to sit and figure it out, which I think is also the interesting part of that. So let's talk about screen time a little bit. You talked on learning apps and the deficiencies that we're having when we're sitting in front of screens. So, how have you, as a teacher, seen the effects of excessive screen time? You talked about they can't flip pages in a book, but especially compared with children who are more engaged, maybe in active play, what are some of the differences you see popping up?
It's really interesting. The more people I talk to about how I'm raising my kids with limited screen time, I mean, I don't think the answer is none. You can't do any, right? Even though that's kind of where my teacher mama heart wants to go sometimes. We don't do none, but we do limited. When I talk about that to other people, their response is usually, oh, well, they're going to need to know how to work a computer when they get to kindergarten, or they're going to need to know. And it's really interesting as a teacher, where we're located, I had some Amish students in my class who had never touched a computer. They get no screen time, and they actually picked it up faster. What we did on the computer, which was limited in my classroom, they picked it up faster than kids who sat in front of the screen because of the way their brains were developing. They could problem solve, they could figure things out. They were stronger academically, even emotional regulation. They typically were stronger because they had to go out and figure things out. They had to go out and they used their imagination and they problem solved and they looked at a problem with more than one solution instead of just being stuck in front of an iPad that, playing a game, you don't have to use those skills or figure anything out like you were talking about.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too is that I found so fascinating when you first answered was the fine motor skills too, about like playing in the Play-Doh and like having the strength in their fingers to actually do the things they need to do, to be able to color, to be able to write, to be able to do all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so fascinating. And I do think it is counterintuitive. Like I said, I think we think phones are so ubiquitous in our world. Our kids are going to have to know how to do it, but they don't have the, well, first off, I am 44. So computers weren't really, I mean, I think I had a computer in my room because I had the only room that had space in it. Got the first computer hand me down from a cousin, like in maybe 92, something like that. But I remember being really young and having a computer in my room and but you couldn't play anything on it. It was like all DOS. It was all like very blocky, pixelated. I think we had maybe a Jeopardy game on there or something like really primitive. But in our my grade, so okay, when I was 10, when I was our daughter's age, we played Oregon Trail, right? You had the whole computer lab with the old Mac computers, and we got to play Oregon Trail. And we've tried playing Oregon Trail with her. She's not into it. She's just like, "This is weird." And we're like, "Yep, we know. It was weird then too. Totally is. Yeah, it's great." But we have decades of a life without computers. Like you said, of figuring it out, digging in, understanding what went into this phone in our hand, what it was like to not have a phone all the time. And if kids don't get that, I think you're right. They just don't get the underlying premise of it all, right? They just don't have the grasp, obviously, because they're children, which makes sense. Let's take a quick pause for a minute, and then I'm going to talk with Elizabeth about screen time, how much screen time she actually has in her family, so we can get a little bit of a ballpark and be honest. You might be interested in hearing my answer as well. Welcome back. Okay, so tell me about what is your screen time like, and then I'll be honest and tell you ours as well.
Okay, sounds good. Ours, so the American Association of Pediatrics recommends 2 hours a day, and that does not include like FaceTiming with family that lives far away and stuff like that. So we're a little bit under than that. Under that, we do it by shows, and they're about 20 to 30 minutes right now are the shows that my boys watch. So they both get one show. My oldest is in kindergarten, so he's gone most of the day, and then we have a couple hours in the afternoon. And my youngest is 3 and he'll be in preschool next year, but for now he's home with me. And so we don't watch TV during the daytime. It's more of an afternoon after school. My oldest is tired, and usually that's their like while I'm cooking dinner. Sometimes they help, but most of the time that is kind of their screen time to just sit and relax a little bit before we play. So that's our routine for now.
Sounds familiar. Okay, so your oldest is in kindergarten, so 5, 6, and your youngest is
3.
okay. So we only have one. We have a 10-year-old. What are the ages on that recommended 2 hours a day?
It's the younger kids, and I don't think homework like, if she does homework and stuff, that wouldn't count as screen time, I don't think.
Thankfully, our homework is not on the tablet. I feel like we're in this little bubble in San Diego where we're still slightly primitive. Like, she does have Google Classroom, and they do give information that way, but she didn't have homework at this school until this year, and it's only a page of math a day and then 20 minutes of reading a night. So it's still really not too bad. I know I love it. I feel so lucky where we are. I just, like, pinch myself every day. I'm like, "Okay, I love it." But that said, I won't say that we fall under that 2 hours a day. I We definitely don't. Maybe right around the 2 hours, probably a little bit more, but we're very intentional about what we're watching. So, like, if we watch TV, we sit down as a family and watch it together. So, right now we're going through old Amazing Race episodes because we're traveling over the summer again. I'm so excited. And so, yeah, so we wanna watch things like that where we get to see different places and try to get her jazzed up about going. Because again, they don't have the whole idea of all of this stuff, and we traveled a lot with her when she was little, but she doesn't remember it, which is fine. Um, so we do that. We try to be very intentional about the shows we watch. We don't have cable, just regular cable TV, so there's no, like, channel surfing or trying to find something on. It's pick what we're watching and watch it. She does watch YouTube videos. I'm going to just put that out there. It's okay, but we're very intentional about which one she watches, right? So we know what she's watching. She doesn't get to take her tablet into her room and watch stuff without us, knowing it's on the TV in the main living area. So we know what she's watching and we can kind of pop in and listen to it and see what's going on. She watches a lot of people play Minecraft, but then we also will play Minecraft. So we have Minecraft where she can play it and we play it together. So we all have it. We can all kind of play in the same world together. So she's not doing a lot of like online things with friends even at this point, or obviously strangers because that's all on lockdown. And then we're also holding off on a phone. We're taking that wait until 8 pledge. Yeah, so I'm trying to get them on the podcast. If you're listening to this, come on the show. So I will send them this episode and I will get them on this show because I think that is so important too, especially, I mean, I have a girl, so I think the effects of social media on her are exacerbated. Like, I think it's just really bad. So she won't get a phone until ninth grade. She will get a watch with cell capabilities to call and text us when she goes to junior high in 7th grade. So our elementary school runs through 6th, which I'm also loving. Again, pinch myself every day that that is our reality. She has a friend that's also kind of doing the same. So I feel really lucky that we have at least one family. I don't think phones are so bad with her friend group just yet, but I am really nervous about next year. Junior high is going to be a lot of tears, I'm sure, in our house over the phone issue, but that's how we roll on screens. So, anyway, take that with a grain of salt.
Well, I think being intentional and doing things as a family is just as important as the amount of time. You know, it's knowing what's going in and being able to talk about the things that you see and the way you use it to get excited about where you're going. We did that too. We didn't end up going, but we were going to go sailing over spring break. And so we watched videos of people sailing and the places we were going to go. And that's exciting to them. Also, my son is really into volcanoes right now is a big thing. So every night he wants to watch a lava video. And so we sit down and we watch a video about volcanoes and we're learning about volcanoes. That is not in his 2 shows or whatever they watch while I'm cooking dinner, but that's just as important and it's good for them. There's so many great things you can do with technology as long as you're aware of also the harmful side of it and you weigh those.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So there you go, everyone. We're not saying no screen time. We're not saying you have to avoid all of it. Obviously, there are going to be some cultural cues you're going to need to tap into so that your children don't feel completely alienated. And it's interesting, I think, with our different age ranges.
Yes, and we've noticed it's different with my youngest too, because he has older brother, and as we move to a new stage with older brother, he gets swept up in there when things were way different when I just had one too. So the wider span of kids you have, you're not probably going to be able to limit as much screen time if you have 2, 3, 4, however many kiddos versus just one.
Awesome. Well, thank you for bringing that up. And it's very true. I know people have listened to the show and I've had comments before being like, she only has one. And I'm like, yep, totally get it. We minimize lots of things in our life, apparently ourselves as well, with the, 2 for 1 replacement on the end. But yeah, I totally get it. So thank you so much for bringing that up. It is a good point to make. So how can we get away from screens? What are some easy ways that parents can encourage more play when inevitably they're going to get the I'm bored or there's nothing to do and
The "I'm bored" is actually really good for kids. When we hear that, my first instinct, at least, is to say, well, you could go color, you could go downstairs and play, you could play with your racetrack, you could go swing. And I want to solve the problem for them. But it's really good to allow them to problem solve on their own. And so you will get the I'm bored, just prepare yourself for it. And okay, I know you have plenty of toys. You can go find something to do and let them be bored for a little while. Let them figure it out because chances are they're going to come up with something really, really, really great. That if you solve the problem for them, they won't have a chance to use that imagination. And just last night we were outside. It was a beautiful day here. It's the first beautiful day in a while, and my boys found some sticks and they decided to make a bird's nest for the bird. And it ended up being just a pile of sticks in the middle of my yard, but that was okay. We cleaned it up and it worked. But just watching them work together and imagine and play together is really good. So you don't have to feel the pressure to minimize the I'm bored because it is really a great opportunity for your kiddos to build some of those really important skills of problem solving, imagination, creativity, focus. The less toys you have and the less things you give them to do that can be played with one way, the more focus they have and the more, or they build that skill, right? It's a skill to be built. And the more they use their creativity. And so it's hard to change a pattern. It's hard to change a habit of screen time. And it will take a while and there will probably be pushback. Not probably, there will be some pushback, right? So in the back of your mind, just remember that it's okay and it's really good for them. That does not make you a bad mama, even if your kiddo isn't happy in the moment. It's really good for them.
yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because it is actually it's one of the points I made on my podcast last week on my solo episode. I went through 10 lessons that I'd learned over the last decade of decluttering and minimalizing things in our life and or minimizing things in our life. And the bonus tip was that it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. And the reason is because it's something you're not doing right now, right? The stuff you do now is easy because you've either been doing it for a while, it was something you really wanted to do, you worked at it and you've gotten it like to the point where you're like, "Okay, I got this." Or we just go into the easy stuff because that's just how our brain works. It wants to take the easiest path. And so if it's a goal you have, if it's something you want to change, it is going to be hard. You have to put in the work. But once you start to put in that work, it gets a little bit easier every single day until it becomes something where you're like, oh, well, yeah, we've always done it that way, even though you forget the struggle that you put in once you get to that new stasis. Thanks for that reminder. I 100% am on board with that. Let's take one more quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get Elizabeth's take on how many toys we actually should have in our home. If we're looking at incorporating more play, does that mean we need more toys? We'll have her answer when we come back. Okay, so you talked about toys. What are your thoughts on toys? Obviously, if we're asking our kids to play more, I think the first gut reaction is going to be, well, they need more toys. So, what do you think about that?
I was just talking to my husband about this, and I was noticing that in every generation, even from my grandma, I remember her telling me stories that she had one corn husk doll, and that's what she played with. And then I remember my mom told me a story once about she was one of five. And so her and her siblings created this whole economy. They lived on a farm. And so they made their money, right? And they made all the things to sell, and they created this whole economy. And the ramp leading up to the barn was their, I don't remember, bank or store or something. And I thought, like, how great is that? How great was that for all of them to imagine and to go out and make it yourself? Just go create something with what you found around the yard. And then for me, I remember going outside and imagining and playing, but I had a lot more of the stuff and the toys. Like we had a playhouse and we would play McDonald's, but I had it was like a plastic toy that, you could pour the drinks and you could do the ice cream, but we didn't make any of that. We made other things, but that's one thing that we played with a lot. We had a lot more of this stuff. And when I look at my boys, we're not over, we've been intentional. I know you talk a lot about being intentional about what comes in. And so we try to be intentional with that. But they still have a lot of toys, more than they need. But they don't need toys to have fun. I think some of the days that they will remember the most and the days that are the most beneficial for them are when we're outside and all they have is a soccer ball and we just run around the yard together and we're playing soccer or basketball or we play on the swing set together. Or last week they found a stick in the yard and they went and they were trying to break the stick and like the bird's nest I told you about, those are the days that are the most beneficial to them. They're imagining, they're exploring their yard, they're exploring their surroundings. And we don't even live in a great place to explore. We're in the middle of a neighborhood. The wildlife we get are just birds. We don't even have squirrels in our neighborhood, but they still can find things to explore. There's still dirt they can dig in. And that's the type of play that really is even teaching them. They are not only building their fine motor skills by digging and exploring and trying to break the stick and doing all the things to get all of their energy out, but they'll learn patterns. They'll make music with sticks. They will count and line things up. They're learning just in their natural curiosity, which is something that we don't always see, but it's going on internally. So, as far as toys go, they don't need toys. Toys are not bad. We're not getting rid of all of their toys, but we are careful about what we bring in to allow space for that imagination. Because if they have everything under the sun, they're not going to use their imagination. And then I've also seen research that says that the more toys the kids have, they just go from thing to thing. So their focus is not growing as strong as if they had just fewer toys. Kids actually learn to focus better because they stay with that one or two things and playing longer than if they have a wider variety of options.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite statistics, I think, or just points of like trivia, is that the stick is in the Toy Hall of Fame, right? So the stick, right, is in the Toy Hall of Fame. That's how awesome it is. Like everybody loves a stick. Like, they're just great. They can be anything. They can be a horse. They can be a wand. They can be, you can do limbo under the stick. You can do all sorts of things with a stick. And yeah, we have a stick collection in our house. Whew, that's a topic for another day. But I've talked about how our daughter's pretty sensitive and she will know, like, no, this is my stick for that, or this is the stick I have turned into a pointy little spear. She's got it all laid out. So for us, I learned early on and we had to limit what came in because once it was in, it was way harder to get it out. Yeah. So anyway, but that's like I said, topic for another day. But I just love that you pointed out that yes, they can make so much from so little. And just to put the point on there, just to really drive it home, if we are trying to help our children with focus, right, which is going to be the biggest uphill battle, I think, of their life, because everything is on demand, handed to you the second you want it. It's the algorithms are already predicting what you want before you even know what you want. So, in order to kind of have this moment of like, I'm in control of my life, not the computer, I think focus is going to be one of those biggest things that we can help our children with. So if you have less toys and you're able to build that focus when they're little, I do really feel like that is a huge benefit that we can give our kids, especially when we feel like we're being the quote unquote bad mom when we're like, no, you can't have that. So try to remember, let's all try to be intentional, take a breath and be like, no, I'm doing this for your benefit. And I'm your parent. And I know you don't get it, but there's a reason to my methods. So yeah, I love that so much. All right. Before we get out of here, I want to circle back real quick to your expertise in kindergarten and helping kids with their academic achievement. And I kind of touched base on our time in Germany, and the differences were stark. And so halfway through, I realized we were debating whether we were going to try to stay in Germany and get a visa and stay over there, or if we were going to come back to the States. And we ended up on a trip to San Diego, fell in love, and went, okay, that's it. But we still had the plans and we were still in Germany. And so I remember they don't, the kids don't go to school, quote unquote, school until first grade, really. And at that point, they're super independent. Like you walk them to school on the first day and that is it. They walk themselves after that. Like it's starkly different, which is so interesting. Well, she didn't end up starting first grade. She only went to kindergarten, which over there is more equivalent to a daycare here. So it's young kids, 3, I think, through 6, basically through 6 years old. But it's all play based. And there wasn't much alphabets or counting, right? There wasn't much writing, there wasn't much of that went on. So it was really interesting. So I actually took it upon myself because we researched where we were going to be living before we moved here. And I was like, she's going to be super behind if we don't teach her this stuff. So I ended up having to teach her how to read, which really prepared me for COVID. Because if you can teach your kindergartner to read when they don't want to be sitting down doing anything, really it kind of just is like, all right, I've done something hard before. I can do this again. So, but tell me a little bit about how we can get our kids that balance, right? That balance between play and having fun and learning these skills that they absolutely need with feeling that they have to be prepared for this environment that is sadly feels way more competitive than it should be when they're starting elementary school. So, talk us through that.
It is. So I'm close to you. I'm 38, almost 39. And I don't know about you, but when I went to school, it was a lot of worksheets. And so when we think about teaching our kids, like we don't know another way because we didn't learn that way. And so when you're preparing your kiddo for kindergarten, your first instinct is going to be, okay, let's make flashcards and let's make some worksheets. What can I find on the internet that I can print off and set them down at the kitchen table and doing it sounds great in your head, and then you end up having a 4-hour-long battle at the kitchen table because your 5-year-old does not want to sit and focus, because that's not how they're wired. So to prepare your kiddo for kindergarten, actually, there are no requirements for going into kindergarten. They don't have to pass a test. They don't have to know anything. But if they go in without any exposure, you're right, they will be behind. And then what I always tell parents is if you think about it this way, it's not just the academics they're going to feel pressure to catch up on. They're entering a new building they've never been to before, so they have to learn their way around. They're probably with new classmates they've never met before, so they're figuring out their place socially. With a new teacher they don't know, suddenly this stranger is in charge of them and they have to figure out, who this person is. They have to figure out all of their routines and procedures and all of that. And then you add not having any idea what's going on academically on top of that, and that is incredibly overwhelming to them. So, they need to be prepared in some way so that they can at least feel comfortable with one new thing, right? But the way to do this is just through play. My son learned the alphabet because we got foam letters and we played with them in the bath. He did not know what a flashcard was. He didn't know what a worksheet was. We played with letters in the bath. And even that, those were only uppercase. Those were only, the capital letters. Counting, they really only need to know up to 10, up to 20 would be great. And every state's just a little bit different. These are for standards that I used when I taught. So every state's a little bit different, but we counted the steps every time we went upstairs and he could count to 12 just by counting the steps. And then once he learned that, we would count how many steps does it take you to get to the bathroom? Or can you do 10 hops to the table or whatever? We play outside a ton. Nature is so great for kids. So we try to be outside whenever we can. And we use chalk a lot. And so I would draw for name recognition. They need to be able to know their name and recognize it because it's on their folders, it's on their desk, it's on their locker, it's on their cubby, it's on everything. So I'd write their name and I'd say, okay, hop to the A or hop to the C, and they could hop, they could skip, they could crawl, but anything that gets them up and moving and in their interests, do things that they're interested in. My boys love playing catch. So sometimes we'll throw the ball and we'll just count how many throws can we make without dropping the ball. But you would be surprised how many of these beginning academic, just rote memory things you can incorporate into play without ever touching a worksheet or a flashcard. Now, I did make cards with letters on them and I hid them around. And so they would go on a little scavenger hunt outside to find letters, but whatever you can do that you can incorporate it into play. And I think parents hear these high standards, and the standards are high in kindergarten, especially versus what you were talking about. I mean, that is a dream for our kids. That would be amazing. My kindergarten kids were writing 5-page research books by May. I mean, it was crazy. And we did it together. It was a dinosaur unit, and every day we'd work on a page together after we researched the dinosaur together, and it was fun. But that was a standard they had to be writing. And so it sounds like your daughter had an amazing kindergarten experience that was really beneficial for her. And she's really lucky to have had that.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Well, and one thing that worked for us, because again, I was really trying to get her to be able to write because I knew she's going to have to come back and be able to write something at least, be able to read something. And now she's a voracious reader. Like she reads 475-page books in a week. Like she loves to read now, which is really great. But it was a struggle at first, for sure. She never liked writing with pencil or pen or crayons because she hated making mistakes that she couldn't get rid of. So we ended up mixing flour and salt. And I remember like putting that on a plate and having her just try to write the letters with her finger in that, because when she messed up, it was just like, oh, just it's gone. Nobody even knows I can't even remember what it looked like, you know? She just never wanted to mess up and she just never wanted to do it until it was perfect. So if anyone's listening to this and they're like, but my kid won't try that, think about what it is that they don't like about it and see if there's a way you can make it more playful or make it fit with what they want to do. So I think there are lots and lots of opportunities. Elizabeth, this has been so great. Thank you so much. There's something we are working together on the Joyful Mama, Joyful Kiddos bundle, and I'm actually giving away my toy clutter rescue guide in there for free for anybody that signs up. And there's lots of free stuff included. So tell us a little bit about what this bundle is, how people can get it, what's included, and how does it support parents and children?
Yeah, so I am super excited about this bundle. We've gathered 24 of our favorite creators that serve mamas and families of young kiddos. And we all have put in, like you said, just a resource that is normally a paid resource. So it's not like a 1-page freebie that you can find on anybody's website anytime. We have some fabulous gifts this year. And so I'm really excited about it. In this bundle, you'll find everything from your toy clutter rescue. We have a weekend breakfast challenge. We have somebody giving away the Artful Parent 101 course that shows you how to incorporate more art and creativity into your home. I am giving away a free lesson from my course for kids all about perseverance and how to instill perseverance in your kiddos. We have some really great things in this bundle that I'm really excited about. And no matter what stage of life you're in or what stage your kiddos are in, you will find something that hopefully serves you and your family well.
Oh, I love that. We'll definitely check it out. Perseverance, that's such a good one. Grit and perseverance and just being able to stick with something. Oh, okay. I'm definitely going to be downloading that one. And also, that art would be really helpful. Like, even with our daughter being 10, that we've tried painting and drawing and stitching and spirograph and all the things. We have tried lots and lots of things. Haven't necessarily found the thing that stuck, so I might check that one out and see other ways we can work art into our daily life because I do think it is so important. So yeah, that's super great. And yeah, like she said, it's not just these one page downloads. Like I actually revamped the toy clutter rescue guide for this. There are video lessons now included with it. There's a huge PDF download to go with it as well, but I have broken it up into chapters with video lessons to help you work through it. There's worksheets and all sorts of stuff in that. So, and it's free. So, where do people sign up for that?
Totally free. You can head to discoveryplaywithlittles.com/JMJK for Joyful Mama, Joyful Kiddos, but only until April 24th because these are normally paid products. We're only hosting this for a week. So make sure you get in there before April 24th. That's when the bundle closes.
Yep. So this goes live on April 17th. So today is the first day to be able to download the free things. So go ahead and hop in there and make sure you're grabbing those because I mean, come on, it's free. It'll be good stuff for you. All right. So then where else can people find you again, just in case they don't want to get the bundle? I don't know why, but where else can they find you?
Absolutely. Discoveryplaywithlittles.com has lots of resources, not just on character traits, but also things that you can do to prepare your kiddo for kindergarten. And then on either Facebook or Instagram at Discovery Play with Littles.
Love it. Okay, before I go, I like to end every show with three rapid fire questions. So the first one is, what does clutter free mean to you?
Yes. Clutter free, when I think about that, I think about not spending my time just managing our stuff, but being able to be present and focused on the world around me. Life, as you know, moves fast when you have kiddos. And I don't want to spend that managing our stuff. So that's what I think about when I think about clutter free.
That one's good. Number two, what's making you happy right now or in this season of your life?
Yeah, a similar answer, I guess. Really enjoying just my boys right now. It seems like time is just flying by. We're almost done with our first year of kindergarten, right? Well, with my oldest, we're almost done with kindergarten. And so I'm really enjoying watching them as they grow. They're finally to the phase at 6 and 3 that they play well together. They can go outside and imagine. And I love seeing their relationship together grow and also just enjoying them in the phase they're in. They're super fun and they still like to be around me for now. I know that probably they won't always ask me to play and want to be around me, but that's what I'm enjoying. Just some good family time.
Oh, I love that. That one's very sweet. And number three, what's a goal you have for yourself this year?
To be more present because I can be very distracted. I get very caught up in my to do list and I see all the things I want to get done. I want to clean out this room or I need to get this done and don't forget about the grocery list. And some of those things have to get done. But I can do that. Like I can be sitting on the floor with my boys playing whatever we're playing and still be thinking, oh, don't forget to do this. Or when they go to nap, these are the three things you have to get done. So I'm really working on being present, putting my phone away. I think modeling no screen or less screen time is important for those years to come. So I've really been leaving my phone in the kitchen, and if it dings, it stays in the kitchen. It's okay. It doesn't need my attention right now. Trying to put my to do list aside, trying to put my phone aside, and just spending time on the most important things that matter. So.
What a good goal. That's awesome. Well, I wish you luck with that goal as you go through the year. I'm sure you're going to knock it out of the park. So that's awesome. Well, thank you, Elizabeth, for joining us today, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Cheers. That was a pretty fun one. I love getting to connect with others about different aspects of minimalism and decluttering and living clutter free. And I think the idea of being clutter free touches so many different aspects that we don't even realize it when we're in the moment. So hopefully you feel the same way and it just gave you a little bit of a different way to look at the toys we bring into our home, how many toys we actually need. Turns out the research continues to show not as many as we think, and just the way to be more intentional and to understand that, you know what, sometimes it's not easy, but we are the parents and we understand a lot more. We have a lot more experience. We really can tap into what is going to be best for our family and just live in that intuition, right? Understand that we know and we can really set the right tone for our families. And guess what? It can be fun, it can be play, and that might be just the thing our family needs. So I would absolutely love to know your thoughts on this episode. What stuck out for you? Are you going to make any changes in your screen time or in how you play or what you play? How many toys you have in your home? Please let me know. I would absolutely love to know. And I know Elizabeth would love to know as well. So go ahead and comment on this post on Instagram or send me a DM. I'm at Wannabe Clutter Free on the social channels. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, come over to the Wannabe Minimalist family group on Facebook. Share in there, join in the conversation. We would love to chat with you and just kind of get your tone on how many toys you have. What's your screen time if you're willing to be honest and open as we were on the show today. And then, of course, do not forget to pick up that Joyful Mom, Joyful Kiddos free bundle this week. It's only available from April 17th through April 24th. I will have a link in the show notes so you can just click on through and grab that with lots of things in there that are going to be free, normally paid things that are completely free for this week only. So don't miss out on that. And thank you again to Elizabeth for joining us on the show and sharing such wonderful insights and just tips and tricks from someone who has been in the trenches, right? She used to teach your kindergarten age children, and so she knows what it's like. She's seen it from both sides of the coin, right? Which I absolutely love when people can come and give advice and information when they have seen both sides and they know what they're talking about. And then if you liked today, don't forget you can leave a rating or a review for this show on Apple Podcast or Spotify, or this episode will also be on YouTube. So come on over there and check it out if you'd like to see Elizabeth and I and our conversation. Until next time, take care, keep things simple. Remember, you do not have to have all the toys to be a good mom. And remember, I believe in you. I'm Deanna Yates, and you've been listening to Wannabe Clutter Free. I'll see you next week. Cheers.